Good morning, good afternoon. I hope you are well wherever you are. My name is Cydney Harris. I'm an undergrad student at Sonoma State University, and I'm honored to be presenting my research paper on corporeal repossession, Black women's literacy as decolonial pedagogy for human rights refinement. We must understand that the law is not operating under habeas corpus, the right to the body, but under the system of habeas viscus, the sovereign right to seize the flesh. We see this violent structural premise enacted from the historical display of Sarah Baartman to the contemporary state seizure of Adriana Smith. My central thesis is that the failure of the 14th, 4th, and First Amendment necessitate a new response, which is feminist literacy are the mandatory political and epistemological counter framework required to assert personhood and survive the state of structural violence. The American project hinges on three constitutional failures that together create the jurisdiction of flesh. The legal system failed because the subject was historically designed as a commodity. Horton Spiller calls this foundational linguistic structure the American grammar. This grammar reduces the subject to flesh, a primary state of disposition. This flesh is the result of a literal act of dismemberment, mutilation, and exile that strips the subject of the African name, of kin, of linguistic and ritual connection. Once reduced, the subject is defined as property plus, a commodity that retains the burden of the female gender but none of its legal protection, leaving it as unprotected female flesh. The 14th Amendment cannot protect a person who was never fully recognized as a legal person. Since the subject is not a legal person, the body becomes available for state use. As Dr. LaShonda Carter and Dr. Tiffany Willoughby Herrard argue, the state positions itself as a sole sovereign over Black life. This power allows the state to seize the fleshly surplus, the population that is structurally generated, as disposable. The body is treated like a living laboratory, constantly under surveillance and subject to intervention. We see this acutely when the state deems Black mothers as inherently violent to rationalize the seizure of their children, reinforcing that the body is merely a vessel for reproduction for future labor. The final violence is discursive. The functional purpose of the habeas viscus system is to eliminate its political voice. The state seeks to ensure the trauma and injustice are unspeakable, forcing the subject into isolation and silence. This is why the literary response is mandatory. The answer to this state silence is Black Feminist Literacies, a political language that asserts a new way of knowing, thinking, and responding to what Samantha Pinto terms as Post-Spillers Epistemology, excuse me, of embodied and emotional justice. This compulsory poetic labor performed by writers across transnational Black diaspora, I examine the epistolary poetic voices compiled by Natalia Molebatsi, including Yvette Christianza on historical erasure, Kalika Putuma on generational trauma, and Le Bogon Michel. Use of rememory to confront public silence, excuse me. Crucially, this labor culminates in the act of corporeal repossession. Among Felix' work, for example, is the sovereign act of building her own vessel, a new sanctuary for herself and her community. This is an act of seizing the body back from the state, demanding autonomy, complexity, and unapologetic joy. It fulfills Horton Spiller's call to strip down through the layers of attuned meaning, and there awaits whatever marvels of my own inventiveness. We began this discussion with the historical violence enacted against Sarah Baartman and the contemporary state seizure seen in Adriana Smith. These embodied examples prove the system is designed to generate unprotected female flesh. The ultimate political project of this compulsory poetic labor is to reject the structural legacy entirely. It is not mere survival, it is the sovereign right to a full human experience and the freedom to pursue joy. We assert personhood through poetic self-legislation. This means living life to the fullest extent, unburdened by the worry that our bodies will be utilized as non-human property. We deserve the experience of fullness and the beauty of life. It is our right. This is a new jurisdiction created by Black Feminist Literacy. Thank you for attending my presentation, and I look forward to answering your questions during the Q&A session.